and welcome to the Women in Data Science series of the Shelly Show. This is our 15th episode. Guess what? We've had more than 45 women in data science on this series. Thank you for all your love and affection to the series, and I really like it when people watch it and I get the kind of messages that I'm getting from people. It's been great. I'm Shailendra, and you're watching this simulcast live on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all the social platforms that you can watch. Every fortnight, we bring the leading ladies of data science to this platform and understand their point of view in the data science world. So if you know a leading lady of data science and you want them to be present here, you want to understand their point of view, then please mention their name in the comment section and I will reach out to them and try to get them here. Now, if you have a question to our leading ladies of data science today, put that question in the comment section and I will definitely ask them that question in the audience Q&A. So you got to wait for that session. Good stuff. So now, without any further ado, let me not waste any time and quickly get a guest onto you. So my first guest is Dr. Lavanya, who is a machine learning scientist and an entrepreneur. She holds a PhD from machine learning in machine learning from the IIS. And I tell you, when I was a kid, I wanted to go to IIS, never get there. So that's a different story. And she's a master's in computer graphics from the University of Utah. She's the founder of machine learning interview.com, and we need to ask her about this, that focuses on AI-based assessments and data science interview prep. She's worked in the industry in a variety of roles at Amazon, InMobi, Myntra, and Kinom.io. She's the author of several peer-reviewed papers in top conferences and journals and has served in the program committee of several international conferences. So without any further ado, let me get in Lavanya. Hi Lavanya, how are you?
Hey, hi, I'm good, Shailesh.
Welcome to the Shelly Show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Tell us about this machine learning interview.com. What is that about?
Right. The machine learning interview.com is a platform to help people prepare for data science interviews. So what happens is people take courses online, people learn data science in a lot of different ways, or they go to college degree. But if you prepare for an interview, suddenly you feel you have to revise so many concepts. Yep. And there are a lot of platforms to go and practice coding. For instance, there's Kaggle where you can practice some data science challenges. But how do you revise all the concepts that get asked in an interview? So the machine learning interview.com platform focuses on helping you revise all the concepts to crack the interviews typically.
Good stuff. Okay, let's very quickly get our other guests. So give me a minute and I'll introduce our second guest as well. So our second guest is Sowmaya Moni. She has 22 years of experience in technology marketing with expertise in go-to-market strategy, portfolio and industry marketing, market research and analytics with HP, Oracle, and Educom Solutions. She's also currently serving as the co-director of Women in Big Data India chapter. She's also a NASSCOM sales and marketing core group member, Forbes Communication Council member, and National Marketing Council member. No, doing too many stuff. She received the most influential global marketing leader recognition from World Marketing Congress in 2019. Oh, that's interesting. So let's get Sowmaya onto the show. Hi, Sowmaya. Welcome to the Shelly Show, the Women in Data Science, episode 15. How are you doing?
All good. Thank you so much. Lovely to meet you, Shelly, and Lavanya as well. Wonderful to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So how many awards have you got so far?
I don't know. I haven't counted, but I feel blessed and fortunate to get that recognition. But yeah, I think it's been good. I have not counted.
Good stuff. Okay, very quickly, I'll just get another guest for us who's been waiting and who's been the bad thing is that she's awake at midnight and she's coming all the way from New York. So let me get her as well, and then we'll start the conversation. Okay, for the audience, guys, for you to view this episode and other sessions that I run on Emerging Technologies live, I would request you to follow me so that you can be alerted when the live session is on. This gives you an opportunity to directly ask questions to our guests, like these two ladies and the third lady coming in. So If you're watching this on LinkedIn, press the follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube, press the subscribe button and smash the bell icon. If you're watching this on Twitter, follow me. And if you're watching it on Facebook, then please like this episode, and share this with other like-minded groups, like data science groups that you're part of. That way, more and more people will learn from these ladies. Okay, let me get the third guest. Finally, we have Kim Herrington, who's a data journalist. I don't know what that is. Let's get her in and ask her. Who's creator of Buffalo Business Intelligence, and Rivery.io named Herrington as a top 20 data influence of 2020 for big data, data science, and analytics for her extensive work in developing her local analytics community with zero budget, and her Wi-Fi Warriors volunteer work that ignited awareness regarding the lack of internet access, which is the digital divide, as we call it, in US on the onset of COVID-19. Okay, she has over 15 years of experience and is a master's in health administration. So without any further ado, let me get Kimberly Herrington. Drum rolls. She's coming all the way from New York and is awake at midnight. So we better be asking her good questions. Hi, Kimberly. Welcome to the Daily Show, the Women in Data Science series. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you very much. But keep it down. My daughter's asleep.
Oh, I need to be speaking slowly. Good stuff. So guys, if you've got any question for these three ladies, these three beautiful ladies of data science, please put those questions in the comment section and I will take them. And here we start with my questions, which start on the processes. So when I started my career, we were all talking about hit and trial in data science. Data science didn't even exist. It was all analytics 25, 26 years ago. And slowly and suddenly it became analytics, then it became data science, machine learning, and now people call it AI algorithm. I'm just a bit confused. But it was all hit and trial once upon a time. What do you guys see? Is that all structured now, or do you see it still hit and trial and people trying to learn from it? What's your point of view? And I'll start with Lavanya.
Right. So what I find is, interestingly, I worked on a data science project over like 15 years back when it was not called data science back at Amazon in Seattle. And yeah, but today when I work on a data science project, right? So I was a software developer trying some algorithms, some clustering algorithms and so on. And when I actually do it like 15 years later, the process is extremely different. So one thing I want to note is, so it is evolving. Not everyone, all companies are actually as initiated into the data science process as others. There is a wide spectrum there. But in general, I think the first thing that one should note is earlier data science was, a lot of people used to think data science as some kind of magic. You do something and then boom, you have to get some improvement. And it doesn't work like that. And that's the first thing to understand, right? So we like a software program and like a machine learning model kind of a thing. And I think people are getting there. So it becomes like an iterative process, like any other process, where you deploy something very simple and then you deploy something more complex and then you deploy something else and then you see whether it's making an improvement and then figure out what else do you need to do. Does it even make sense to use data science here? So it's a very iterative process. And I see that happening now. So the other aspect is the kind of, there is more process in the sense that you have like a team which has typically, at least some of the companies I see, you have like a data scientist, you have a data engineer, you have a supporting software developer, you have like a product manager, and there is like a team around data science where there is a well-defined process and there are roles defined, as opposed to just picking a problem and everybody figuring out like, and the developer just trying to push something which was like, 10 years back. So I see that the processes are evolving, but I do think that it still does have a long way to go, because people are just learning about it to come up with the right process, and organizations are adapting it.
Okay. What do you think, Soumya?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Lavanya. I started much before her, like some 20 years back, where the process there, we didn't have anybody called data scientists, and scientists were typically related to people who did research and engineering. So the association to the word scientist is something which I thought was highly evolved at that point in time. Whereas now I see that it's being used more ubiquitously than before. That's one change that I see. When I started my career some 20 years ago, I was really doing reporting and there were business problems to solve. And it was really about, understanding the data, and there were no data libraries available. And there wasn't a team, and there wasn't anybody. The product manager was doing business analysis. The product manager he was the business analyst. He was the product analyst. He was probably the data scientist. He was probably the machine learner. Everything rolled into one role. And probably even marketing that product as well, right? Because you are looking to solve a problem. So I think, in my view, it's become like it's now become a super speciality now, as I see, as we've grown. Now you have multiple roles within the data science field itself, which wasn't the case before. But to answer your question very specifically in terms of what processes have changed, the processes are still quite unstructured because it's a fairly new area. Data science continues to be about creative problem solving. Problem definition is only one part of it, and problems have existed time immemorial. It's just the way and the techniques that we use to identify, how to solve a problem, that has evolved over time. And I think it's only going to change, and it's going to only evolve going forward. So that's my perspective and view on processes.
Kim, what do you think?
So we're taking a little bit of we're on the newer spectrum out in Western New York. So we're not like in a California or New York City. So when it comes to structure and processes, you guys are a little farther along. But when it comes back down to it, to your point, what you just said, it comes back down to creative problem solving and identifying the right question that you want to answer. So a lot of the processes that we tend to focus on is how you seek information, like how do you find existing information, how you solicit information, how do you ask people for more information, and then how do you speak data. So how are you talking about data? How are you arguing with it? How are you analyzing it? Those kinds of processes are what we're working on.
Okay. My personal view here is that when I started, it was all hit and trial. But over the years, what has happened is that there is a kind of a structure. There is an overarching structure, which is you start with a business problem. And when you say that you start with a business problem, I ask people to define the business problem in plain English in the first place. We used to say, well, again, Swami, when you say that you used to do reporting once upon a time, and reporting was called, and even today also, a lot of people think data science is reporting. Data science is not reporting, it's solving a problem. And for that, you need to actually define the problem in the first place. What problem you're trying to solve. And most of the people I see struggle to even define the problem. So when I was doing consulting, I used to walk to my clients and tell them, go to the whiteboard and write in plain English, what is your business problem? And they would struggle. And you have to write in one, and this is business. I'm not talking IT. This is business. And when you tell them to write in one line, they would struggle. So in the process point of view, you define the business problem, you go and then you search for the data that is required to solve that business problem. Then you look at the models that would be required to actually get to that outcome, and reiterate. So then there's a cycle going on in between up until you get more data, you define it, you make sure that the output resolves the outcome, and then you execute that. Now, most of the time, people miss that execution part as well. And I've seen a lot of organizations sitting down and building these models, but without any engagement with the business. And when it goes to the business, they say, this is all what we do. We don't know what this is all about. This is maths. This is data. We don't know what data is. So so the processes have actually structured overarchingly, but at the end, it is hit and trial because you need to learn as you go and get in more data, as you improvise on your model that you've built on and so forth. So I think things are going collectively. One question that comes to mind at this stage is, you've seen that various kind of processes working. What do you think, in your point of view, a missing ingredient that if I put into the process would make a huge difference? And I have my point of view on that, but we'll come in there. Having said that, before you answer that question, I'll ask all the audience, the guys, you've got more than 30 people watching this episode. Guys, if you've got a question, put that in the comment section and I will ask that question. And also, like this and share this with other people. So, Soumya, start with you. What is the missing ingredient that you think if it comes into the play, you will be able to, it will make a huge difference to the data science process?
So for me, I think it's going to come to the later part of the discussion, which is really about skills. And I referenced this at the beginning about creative problem solving. So I think one part of it is about marrying the data and the language or the lingo of making sure that the data solves a particular problem or a business issue. But I think what probably would help is to be able to tell a story from that data, right? So lot many times there is humongous data that is available and we extract some insights that we want to see and perhaps not what data is telling us. So therefore, I think, and that probably is also something which businesses are trying. And I feel that probably the visual storytelling part and what the data is trying to tell us and how true are we to that data is something, or the information that is coming out. I think it's important for us to recognize and know. And many businesses struggle to do this because a lot many times what they think and what they see, there may be disparity. And therefore, I think that probably, and that divergence, if we are able to come together with, in terms of understanding what the data is trying to tell us and how we can visually represent the data, is a skill that I think we need to bring. And that could be a missing ingredient, or rather an ingredient that could enhance the entire process and also the discipline of data science, in my view.
Okay. Lavanya, what do you think?
So I'm speaking in the context of like product companies that are adapting data science. And one thing that I found is that one thing that I think is a missing ingredient, at least in this setting, is that data science has become a very specialized field now, as some of you said earlier. And data scientists have specialized training. And when you get people who are trained specifically in math and stats, sometimes they do not appreciate how it ties to the entire big picture or the business goal that we are trying to achieve. And this is something related to what Shaili had said before as well. So I think there is a bit of a gap between like the product and the operations team or whichever team the data scientists are working with, and the data science team themselves in some cases. And for example, the kind of metrics you would measure that would create business impact would be different from the kind of metrics a data scientist would measure to see if a model is working. So it's important, I think, this. So while we have been perfecting, training people to get good outcomes, the important thing to also train people on is to actually help them see, what makes business values and make that final connection so that you can actually get more outcomes from whatever data science we are doing.
Mm-hmm. Kim, what do you think?
I'm just curious, have any of you guys ever heard the phrase, nothing for us without us?
Nothing for us without us.
Yes.
No.
So it's one of those things of keeping people involved, like your end users, getting them up to be a part of the product as you go through, like as you're developing whatever it is that you're developing. It's a matter of getting the people that you actually want to use it in the room so they actually understand what you're doing along the way, and they can ask questions and then become champions of whatever product you're trying to create. So that's one of the things, and it ties in with the data storytelling. In particular, another skill that I think would be really helpful for people to gain is motivational interviewing. So that's actually helps you when it comes to asking people what they actually need from you. It's really listening. It's developing those skills to be able to really hear what the other person is saying to you, and use reflections to get a little deeper rather than saying, "Well, why do you feel that way?" It's asking, "Well, I sense that that must be really frustrating for you when you can't find that. What else can you tell me about that?" So it's really like just getting people to tell you more about the problems that they're experiencing, and that will help you as you're like looking at a product.
No, I totally agree with you on that. And let me explain that. My point of view there is that business engagement is the must. Now, the question then comes to mind is, when do you involve them? And I have seen success when you involve them right from day one. They need to own the project or product, whatever you're trying to build. They need to own it. Because if they don't own it, they will not take it to market. They will have a reason in their mind not to take that to market. So you need to make sure that you, and as Kim rightly said, it has to be, they have to be involved at all stages. So, and I've seen, I've done that for so many years, and I've seen that when you do that, when you bring the people, when you build a model and build a product and take it to the business and say, well, now you take it to market, the chances are it will not be successful. They will not take it to market. But if you involve them right from day one, they will take it to market because it is their product. It's like, and that is very, very important. And I think that is the missing ingredient in my point of view, which makes a huge difference. And I think Kim has rightly said in that you have to make sure that business comes along with you and they all work together. And as Sowmaya said, we should now talk about the skills aspect of it, and that's my favorite aspect as well, because what we have seen over the years is that that's a big elephant in the room for data scientists, and suddenly there are so many data scientists. I don't know where they appear from, but whether they're statisticians or not, but they're data scientists somehow. So the question I have for you is, what are the important skills you think are important to become a data scientist? What in your mind makes you makes it possible to to do a good job in becoming a data scientist? I will start with Kim in this case. Kim?
Sure. I think you first and foremost have to just be like a relentless creative person that wants to learn everything. So you want to be super curious. You want to be a critical thinker. You need those basic skill sets before you can add on anything like SQL, Python, R. Before you can add any of those things, you need to have those first and foremost. But you also have to have a drive to solve problems. Personally, for me, it's one of my pet peeves when I talk to people that are like new coming out of school, and I ask them, what do you want to do, from here? And they say, oh, I just want to use data to solve problems. I'm like, okay, well, what type of problems? And they're like, whatever problems you want me to solve. And it's like, okay, but what are you passionate about? What's your life history? What's your life experiences? Tell me something like a hardship that you went through and how you think you could use data to improve that.
Okay. Lavanya, what do you think?
Right. So I think to be a data scientist, so the other aspect to add to what Kim said is that you need to be a scientist. So which means scientists do experiments. So you need to understand the process of experimenting and, sometimes rejecting, whatever you came up with and coming up with the right outcomes. So ability to look at data, understand data, and inclination to play with data, being able to experiment with data and coming up with outcomes. And general problem solving skills are very important as well. So being able to understand how the problem you are trying to solve, the specific sub problem you're trying to solve, relates with the big business goal that is trying to be achieved, and seeing if it makes sense. And you are trying to solve the right using the right techniques to get to that final business goal. So I think these are some ingredients. And of course, you also need good skills, basic skills in stats and ML models. Of course, you need the basic skills as well.
Okay.
And coding skills.
Sowmaya?
Yeah, so I think Lavanya and Kim have covered pretty much the universe of skill sets that we need to have data scientists. But I'd bring a gender aspect to it as well. Given that this is women in data science, I believe that men and women look at problems differently. Okay?
Is that so? And that was one of my questions, and I will.
Okay.
And I'll ask it now, if you go in that direction. That when you work with people, do you see that people look at a data science problem differently if they're male or female? Do you see that as well?
So is that a question for me or for anybody else? I mean, yeah.
No, you go on, you start.
Okay. Okay. So I think, from my experience, I've realized that, of course, the problem definition and the process and the skills that the formal degree that one would take, the techniques that you would apply would probably be the same. But how you tell the story, how you communicate the story, and what extraction that you get, and I think there is more empathy towards how you treat the data when I've seen women present stories differently than men. And it's the same data model and the same data set over the years. And that's why I've been intrigued by how women can project a certain problem and also the solution to that problem very differently, whether it's to do with business goals or whether it's to do with solving a social impact problem where there is humongous need for data and scale. I think I have seen women represent that differently. Now, whether you can tie that to an outcome, whether it's successful or not, is immaterial. But the way the story is told and the treatment of data is slightly different from my observation, at least. And therefore, while the skill set conversation was going on, I felt that hard and soft skills are important, but more importantly, even the gender perspective brings into play, in my view. And that's perhaps the reason why I've been drawn to the mission of women in big data, because I believe that women are quite underrepresented in this field, and therefore we need to have more women look at problems and solving problems differently. So that's really where I'm coming from, and I see there is a difference.
Okay, Lavanya, do you see that male look at problem differently to the female gender? Is there a gender difference there in how to approach a problem or how to solve a problem? Have you seen that difference?
I personally don't see a difference in how males approach solving a problem and females approach solving a problem. But what I do see a difference in, for instance, if you do not have enough female participation, let me give you an example, right? So suppose I have like a group of data scientists trying to solve a problem with, an apparel data set, right? And typically you tend to pick like a subset of the data to begin with. So usually I've in a project that I was involved with, people might end up with picking like like the male genes or whatever, like the male data set. And it might turn out that the female data set actually has more customers who brought products, but it's just that there is some biases that go in sometimes when you have like a subset of population who's working on things, right? So in that sense, I think having females in the team definitely brings in diversity of viewpoints. So the data set is just an example, but even in terms of if you're working on a product, for instance, that relates to apparel, maybe the maximum number of customers are going to be female. So a female might be able to identify with the problem requirements in a different way than the male might. So I definitely see a difference from that perspective, and it's good to have diversity to reflect the kind of customers that we have, right? But in terms of the problem solving or the presentation in the environments that I have been, I've not seen a very big difference. It might be the case that females present things differently in some cases, but I think it's more a function of how they've been trained, and I don't see a big difference really. Maybe, yeah, that's just my perspective.
Okay, Kim, what do you think?
So I agree that there's not really a difference between the way that males and females think in a grand spectrum. But for me, I've also noticed sometimes, and women, we get it. Guys tend to look at problems sometimes and get see this kind of view, right? You're looking at the problem. So if you had a patient that was did not have enough nutrition, they'd be like, oh, just give them food, right? But really, when you take a step back, I feel like women actually are more likely to look at the broader context of the picture and then realize, oh, they don't have a vehicle and they live in a food desert. So maybe they actually need more transportation to get the food. So it's not the fact that they just need food. It's the fact that they also need transportation, which would fix a lot of different social determinants of health that they have.
Interesting. Okay, so Soumya, you mentioned that there is less women. There's a need to get more women in this space. Is there any particular reason why you find less women in the data science, big data, AI space, or is that just part of the entire workforce that everywhere that's the same thing? So hence here. So what do you think?
So gender disparity in technology jobs is fairly wide and deep. So I think there is nothing new or different in an AI or ML or data science space, because I believe that that's a discipline which probably, yes, women are underrepresented in my view in technology and business particularly. So I don't see this to be very different. It's just a subset of a problem that we are trying to solve by getting more women and female participation in problem solving, in also in the field itself. So I personally don't think that it's very different from the larger context of getting more women in technology, in business. So I think there's an effort, and there is obviously more participation is encouraged by industry and governments, and obviously we see in the financial sector we see that there is an uptick in VC investments in female founding companies. So there is an uptick on that, and I'm happy to see that we have a founder amongst us as well. So that uptick is happening, but obviously there is a long way to go. So it's not very different from what I see from the other industries or technology in general.
What do you think, Lavanya? Because when you have this portal, do you see a lot of, is there a female gender bias or a male gender bias? What do you see?
I see that there are more males than females, but I think I don't see like I don't see a huge bias in the people who are trying to learn it. There is a bias, but not as much as in the workforce. If you're looking at people who are trying to learn data science and trying to get data science jobs, especially at the entry level. So if I go to a level of let's say 4 or 5 years experienced people, I don't see a lot of females who are actually trying to get into the top data science jobs. And then if I look at leadership roles, there are fewer people. So I definitely see that kind of a gradation. Yeah, so that's what I would say in specific answer to your question.
Kim, what do you think?
I agree in leadership positions. That's where you see the most disparity in males versus females when it comes to technology. In my area, there was one female that I looked up to, and her name is Alison Sawgraves, and I contact her whenever I've got questions and things like that. But she was really the first person that I was able to see. But there's that saying of you can't be what you can't see. So that's why I was so excited to be where I am. I'm the first data journalist to my knowledge in Western New York. So that was an evolution of a business intelligence manager, BI project coordinator. There was no way to move up. So we're also facing something new too, of trying to create new positions. And we have to not be afraid to create those new positions for ourselves. We have to write those job descriptions for areas that we see that need to exist. So we have to give ourselves the confidence to say, oh, that doesn't exist before. Well, then do it yourself, step into that role.
Okay, let's ask this question to the audience as well, and then I will give you a trick question. And the question is, guys, people who are watching this, why do you think there are less women in data science? Full stop. What's your point of view? And I think there are a couple of women who are watching me now, who just mentioned a question I've seen. So even to those girls, I think it was Poonam Sood. If you're watching, why do you think, and put that in the comment section, why do you think there are less women in data science? Having said that, I'll tell you a story. When I started studying, when I went to school, we always knew one thing, that women are more intelligent than men. Girls are more intelligent than boys.
Pandering.
Out of the first 10 ranks, we used to have 5 or 6 girls, and we were the 4 boys, and most of the backbenchers were the boys. So what happens from that point, and even till 12th, we saw that a lot of girls were like above 70s, 80s, and 90s. And then suddenly, when you go to engineering college, you've got absolute opposite of that. You've got more women than 1 or 2 girls. So why do women at that point in time change their course, either take up medicine or go to commerce or something, but don't take engineering as a subject matter? I don't know, and so I'm asking you girls, what changes at that point in time? Because if it was intelligence, that's there. That's far more than men, for sure. But what changes at the end? Sumit, what do you think?
I don't know how much of this is a universal phenomenon, but I do see. I was fortunate to be part of an all-girls school, so girls always ranked 1 to 50, whatever was the class representation. So yes, I think it's probably it's a fact that the cultural fabric, or maybe the fact that more women don't take up what is classically called as left brain or math or aptitude kind of courses. The underrepresentation is very evident, at least in engineering or even in applied sciences, and more so in masters. So while bachelors we see, but I think the situation is changing now. 20 years ago, it was still underrepresented, but particularly in data science, it's a new field. So now I see more women. I think Lavanya reference to the fact that at entry level, there are more women applying, but I think as they grow in the organization, obviously at leadership and mid-management levels, probably they plateau. And therefore, there is underrepresentation there. But I think the situation is changing now. Math and engineering subjects are considered to be hard. I don't know why, and I still haven't cracked that as to why math and engineering subjects are hard. I personally enjoyed math, though I did not take up engineering personally, but for me, it was more commerce, which also was about business and data. So I don't know as to why engineering and math are considered to be hard or obtuse subjects. Maybe that's probably to do with some level of bias that exists subconsciously as we are brought up. So maybe that probably has hindered some of this participation. And of course, as women progress in their careers and their families, a lot of women actually step out of the workforce. But that's not very unique to data science. That is a phenomenon that is across the industry. So it's a combination of multiple things, and particularly in data science, it's a fairly new field. So you will see fewer representation there. So that's my take on this, actually.
What do you think, Kim?
So I remember one particular experience for myself. So while I was getting my bachelor's in biology, I was halfway through the program, and I remember somebody coming in and speaking to us in one of our courses and telling us that half the people in the room were going to be gone by the end of the program. So and just laying it out there, and it was like almost a thing like, give up, you're going to fail, for this thing. And I'm fortunate, that I had a good support system. And even though I was having a rough time at that point, I was still able to push through. I'm like, oh, I don't want to be one of the people that, doesn't make it through the program. I can do this. And, I got additional support and help. But it was that point of trying to, hearing that, that you're not going to get through. And it's like both equal girls and guys, and that half are not going to be there. It's like you start to doubt, right? You get that imposter syndrome. we get that, on different areas. But that was one of the areas that really kind of pushed me. But the thing that gave me that power to push through and to finish was back in 7th grade, there was a local college that had a women in data science or in in science and mathematics conference, where they really, brought young girls in 7th grade in to be able to teach us, like, hey, science is cool. You should continue to do that throughout your life, and don't be afraid. And you are going to have roadblocks thrown up in front of you. I've had peers that had many professors that said inappropriate things to them, that they shouldn't be doctors, etc. But it's really just having that support system around you that says, yes, you can do it, and having that confidence in yourself and to move forward.
Lavanya, what do you think?
Yeah, so let me say this in the context of India. We have a very patriarchal society. And if you look at the lower, the rural areas and so on, there is definitely a clear mindset bias that goes on. And there is less participation even in maybe schools, and definitely less participation in STEM and, topics like data science. But even if you look at the educated people, let me give you an anecdote from my personal experience. So when I was in BTech, 1/3 of our class was women. And that's because we had something that says 1/3 of the class needs to be women, by the way. So that said, and I studied in the top college in the state I was in. It was the top college. So now the top 5 people in the class were actually women. So the 5 toppers in the class were always women. A class size was 30. There were like 10 women, and the top 5 ranks were from women. And interestingly, though, like 3 of them later, as soon as they finished BTech, they got married. They went to US, stayed with their husband. Only after like a couple of years, they started like working in a good company. But the point is that their career did not come first at that point. So that is one stage where, women tend to sometimes take a setback. Not in all cases, not in my case. I went ahead and did a master's. I joined Amazon. So I didn't have a problem, but some people do. So the other aspect, definitely, a lot of women drop out when actually they get during childbirth, right? And they hesitate to come back unless they have very good support system, right? But I do think things are changing, because now, there are more opportunities that people can work remotely. And so, for instance, I see that quite a few of the people who are trying to like move to data science are people who have taken a break due to maternity and want to sort of get back. And then when they get back, okay, let me actually try to see if I can learn data science, kind of a thing. But I do see the trend that, now there are ways to encourage people to actually get back to work once they do drop out. But I do see that, dropping off at that point is definitely an important factor. And I would also add that it's not just specific to data science, it's across all fields. Yeah.
Okay. And this is good explanation, both from a India point of view and Western, US point of view. I've got a question which is for you, Lavanya, because you run this machine learning interview.com. I want you to explain to the world, and because lots of budding data scientists who want to be data scientists actually watch this episode, who are beginners, what do you advise them? What kind of skill sets they should be working on to be able to get their first job? And then we will talk about others as well. But to get their first job, what kind of skill set they should work on, so that when they go for an interview, it is easy for them. Of course, they will have to compete with the rest. But what are the special skill sets that they need to follow?
Right. Okay. So let's talk about how to get a first job in data science. The first thing you need to know is you need to be able to code. So most data science jobs, or even if you take analytics jobs, require some form of coding. So either Python, or if you want to be an analyst, maybe SQL in some cases, but in most cases, Python is something that you need to first, get comfortable with, right? The second thing, so because the first thing is a data scientist is a software developer plus in some sense, right? The second thing is being able to pick up all the some kind of all the stats concepts that are around. So there is a lot of material available online, and there are tons and tons of materials. And then there are also a lot of courses available online, both that are free, and if you're a working professional also, you can actually do it in your spare time, There are many courses. And finally, if you want to get hired as a data scientist, you need to have done a substantial number of projects. So how do you do substantial number of projects? So you can actually go to Kaggle and start doing projects, right? So you have one ready way to go do some projects to begin with. So you can also look out for like data sets publicly available. You can actually go look out for like free internships, maybe with some startups that have data and that they're looking for someone to play around with data. Whatever you do like lots of projects. Your resume should have lots of projects to give someone the confidence that you've actually worked with different kinds of use cases. So I think these are three things that are important.
Okay. What do you think, Kim?
So I think that you need to be able to have problem solving and storytelling together. So how I actually got into the data science industry was from doing a combination of some SEO work, so search engine optimization, but also I was working for a orthopedic surgeon, and I couldn't control the X-ray lab, and we weren't getting patients through it fast enough because the lab was an outpatient lab. So I just used the information that I had available to me. I could control that my patients could write down how long it took them to go through the lab and to find out how long it took them to get their x-rays and then go see my physician. And just doing that expedited the process itself by being able to process our patients faster. But using that analysis, it was just like some paper and pencil, and then I turned it into Excel and turned it into a bar chart and brought that to my next employer to kind of show them like, this is a problem that I had that I needed to solve because my provider that I was working for was getting in trouble, and he was upset that he wasn't seeing the patients as fast as his peers, etc. So just like solving a problem, like however small is with whatever tools that you have, like being able to demonstrate that, I think is really important.
Okay. What do you think, Sumit?
Yeah. Aside all the skills that have been already mentioned by Lavanya and Kim, I think visualization is another area that I believe as you run through data sets, as you present the data and communicate what you want to tell, I think those are two additional skills that I believe are important. Often I see that there is data available and we are looking to solve a problem, but we perhaps miss out in communicating it through a visual medium. So visualization, of course, there are many templates these days available, and Power BI and Tableau, everybody sort of gives you powerful visualization tools. So the ability to use those visualization tools to be able to communicate the story visually is something which I think it's a softer skill as well, not just presenting the data, but to be able to also communicate what the data is trying to tell you. I think that is a key skill as well. It's a soft skill, but that's important. And no amount of online learning is going to help unless you communicate verbally what you want to. So I think that is also something which I would encourage budding data scientists to look at. Speak through the data and speak through your audience and make sure that you connect with your audience with what you're trying to communicate. So I think those are the two important skills that I'd add to whatever Lavanya and Kim have already shared.
Okay. So my point of view there is quite different because there are three different pillars of data science. One is data extraction, getting the right data. Second is statistics, and third is communication. And to get all of that in one person is very hard. I think, I don't know who thinks that there is a data science. I don't think a data scientist exists because you can't have all these three things in one person. I have not seen a very good communicator in a statistician or a very good communicator in a data engineer as the new terminology has come in. But these are three different pillars, and so it is important for people to learn either or all three of the three pillars. But what I've found is most of the time people focus on just getting data extraction and coding. A very important aspect is data, which is communication, where you go in and talk to the business, explain to them, communicate with them why they should be actually doing or utilizing that particular model. And that is very important. So I think, in my view, people should learn statistics. That's the core of data science. People have to learn statistics. Go back to your core. I usually tell them to go and pick up their 10th class statistics book and start reading from there, because that's where you start. And then go in and start learning statistics as you go building your capability and skill set. And so that is very, very important. Once you do that, then you can look at extracting data, and you can find a lot of data science, a lot of data engineers who can get data. But then to communication is very important. To communicate is very important. And for that, communication skills, as Kim and Sowmaya rightly said, are very, very important aspect of bringing that to the business and to the world, so that whatever you've built is executed and taken forward. That's where I come in from, and my point of view comes in. Do you guys agree with that, or is there something else that I'm missing? Anyone?
So when it comes to communication, one of the things that I've realized is there's actually a couple different roles. There's between a data journalist, an analytics translator, and a data storyteller. So again, we're building into more things. And of course, I'm learning these things as I came in as a data journalist, technically doing all three of those at once, a little bit here and there. I fall actually more closely into the realm of the data storytellers and the analytics translators, because what I get to do all the time is getting to see what people have built, and then asking them the question of like, okay, well, what does this mean? Are you guys familiar with the TV show Jeopardy?
Yep.
Yeah.
So when someone shows me a bar chart or a graph or anything, I say, okay, well, if this is a Jeopardy question, like what is the answer, right? So this is the answer. So what was the question itself? So that's how you change your title up. So you actually are letting people know, oh, okay, this is the question and this is the answer that you're showing people. So I agree with you that you do need to up those communication skills, but there's also more niche jobs. So whereas a data journalist, actually, I'm seeing more growth in is an area where you are actually working in a newsroom. There's a lot of people that I'm now, ever since I became a data journalist, I've found more of them in different areas, as one does. And, they're working off of deadlines that they only have a day to do everything with their data, to get it in and like get it to their editor so they can put it on a storyline, like to get those stories out there into the public. Whereas the analytics translators, those are people that are working one-on-one with end users and the data scientists to be like, okay, well, what does that mean? But that position actually takes the most confidence, I think, of all of them, because you have to be comfortable with saying, I don't understand this again and again and again. And it is so like, you have to be like, yes, this is important. You are not stupid. You need to ask those questions. You need to get that clarity, because if you have questions with it, it's not going to matter to who you're trying to translate it to, right? They might have those same questions. So the more clear you can get, the more clear they're going to get.
Okay. Before I get to the next section, I would like to state something. Sorry, guys. This is your chance to ask questions to these three ladies. If you've got a question, please put that in the comment section, and I'll take that question in the audience Q&A section, which will be very soon. And also, please don't forget to like this session so that more and more people can get a view of this, and share it with your network hereafter. I would like you three to kindly mention 3 more women in data science in the comment section post this session, so that we can get more people to come on the show, if you know any. And that is the purpose, that's the reason where I'm driving this. And as we are hitting a larger number, we want to make sure that we've got, it's getting harder and harder to get the women in data science, because we're just getting most of them. And I don't want to come to a situation where I've got nobody to actually come to the show. So please do that. Okay, and to the audience as well. If you know anyone who you think should be on this show, please mention their name in the comment section, and I will try and reach to them and get them here. Okay. Another section of ours is about success story, and that is one of my key sections, because that's where we talk about use cases which have changed data science as it is. So if you know of any use case that you were involved in, or any use case that you've seen but was a game changer, where data science impacted monetarily or non-monetarily, doesn't matter, but it did make a huge difference, then please, this is your time. And it can be one use case or two use cases, up to you. Your chance. So I'll start with Kim this time.
Sure. So one of the use cases that I can discuss with is that has to do with social determinants of health. So that has to do with everything outside of your physician's office, the different areas that help impact your health, which includes that having that access to a vehicle, crowded housing, access to the internet, as well as having things like making sure that poverty levels are low unemployment, etc. So in the United States, we are trying to combat social determinants of health right now. It's actually becoming more mainstream. But what I did was I teamed up with a wonderful woman, Dr. Wendy Mix, where we used Esri, and we actually made a story map. And I'll get you that link that has the actual map itself, where we've created a social determinants of health index. So you could actually search by zip code to find your particular area and find out what social determinants of health impacted that person. And the reason that was important is because if you are a community health worker working out in the crowd, it's a lot easier to say to somebody, again, using motivational interviewing techniques, I can see here by putting in your zip code that there are a lot of people in your area that are suffering from crowded housing. Are you suffering from crowded housing? It makes the conversation be a lot smoother in terms of like being accusatory. We're like, so do you live with more than 3 people in your house? Like, it's a different way of saying people in your area are having this issue. Are you?
Mhm.
And so it's bringing that up. But as a part of making those maps and finding out where the different internet access was in Western New York, that piece of it became a much larger story in Western New York, as you'd mentioned at the very beginning. So we did this thing. You can go to WNYWiFiWarriors.com and see how we took that little piece of information at the very beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. I realized, oh my gosh, 18.6% of my area does not have access to the internet right now. And literally, that's the only thing you can do right now to get access to food, school, technology, telemedicine, all of those things. And no one knows about this yet. I guarantee you, no one's talking about that. As I looked on Google, like I Googled it, like internet access in this area, and people weren't talking about it yet. So I was able to use those statistics to bring it to light in our community and actually bring internet to a community center on the weekends. And because I was just helping provide Wi-Fi, that's like nothing, right? You're bringing Wi-Fi to a parking lot. People were like, oh, well, you know what? I've got masks. So then people came and they brought masks, and someone said, oh, you've got masks and Wi-Fi? Oh, I'm going to bring food. And they started bringing food to distribute to other people. So we helped over 1,000 people get access to the internet and food and masks over a series of about 5 weekends at this parking lot. And every weekend we had more. So that's a use case that we had with using data to create a real actionable change in the neighborhood. And fast forward to today, where the digital divide is being covered on national news networks. I'm just happy that we were able to spark that conversation in our community within like the first 2 weeks of everybody being stuck at home. Like that was fun.
That is amazing. To be honest, just to know that there is no internet in US is a statement in itself. If someone said in India, I would say, yeah, it's India. Yep, that happens. But in US, you don't have internet at places, and that too next to New York. Unbelievable.
Yep.
Um,
So it's the national rate for it. So in Western New York, it's 18.6%. In New York, it's 15.6%. But in the US, it's 15.8% of all households do not have access to the internet.
15.8% households do not have access to the internet.
Correct.
That's a statement. Anyways, can't believe it. To be honest, in Australia, we did use, I did use in my part of the world, a particular piece of work that we did for scheduling rollout of the fiber optics, which is internet across the country, which was very well received, to be honest. So yeah, there are ways of making things different. And the other thing which I did, and I was talking to one of the large telcos at a point in time, where they were changing from 3G to 4G. This was a few years ago, and they started changing the cell sites without doing any analysis, and they landed up creating black spots in areas where there was the maximum utilization of data
Wow.
without doing any analysis. So yeah, that happens in Western world as well. Okay, let's come to Lavanya. Lavanya, any use case you want to share where it made a huge difference, monetarily, non-monetarily, doesn't matter. Your point of view.
Yeah, so let me share a few use cases that I worked on in general in this
Yep.
space. Yeah, so I want to take this example like way back. One of my first data science projects, again back in Amazon, that I talked about when it was not called data science. So I worked on this project of trying to figure out how to. So this is for Amazon warehouses. Each warehouse of Amazon is bigger than like 16 football fields. Some of the warehouses, at least, they are huge, and things are organized all over the warehouse. A huge percentage of a company's expense in terms of fulfillment actually goes into picking, which is people going and picking items from various aisles in the warehouse.
Yep.
Right. So it's a huge challenge, and it's very important to save the time of the pickers, because it is like one of the biggest expenses. So one of the projects I worked on is at that time is how to place inventory in a better way and how to optimize the batch of items that people are picking so that they do not have to travel a lot. Right. So this is all within the warehouse. Right. And I use like a bunch of different techniques. And again, like, as a developer, I did this. It's very interesting. So I was not a scientist at that time. And it led to like a huge improvement in pick productivity. So that's a use case. Another use case is I can think of is this is something that I did while I was doing my PhD, but I sort of want to mention this because it was a very different way of thinking about the problem. So one of the problems I was trying to solve when I was doing my PhD was how to make your computer faster by figuring out what you're going to access in advance and put it in cache. Right. And the challenge is, when you look at all these caching techniques, you would have studied some kinds of caching techniques like LRU optimization, least recently used, and all sorts of things if you did like some kind of a engineering or whatever. So usually the challenge is that the kind of latencies you're talking about are very small. So if you run a machine learning algorithm, you need to do something. People used to think that you need to do something in that small granularity in order to be able to help, optimize, because the cache, if you're looking at memory access, right, it is like even like disk access, memory access, all of these are at like millisecond, microsecond granularity. Right. So it means that you need to do something, some model that does extremely fast prediction or whatever. But so I was looking at it a different way. So why don't we do something to capture long range dependencies? So what if you were looking at, let's say, a movie from Disney? So you looked at Lion King, and next time I see your access pattern of the memory, can I figure out that overall, over the last half an hour, you are looking at the Lion King access pattern, and so I fetch Lion King from the memory and put it in cache. So I don't need to do this at like that small granularity, but sort of I'm doing something at, half an hour, or like, I can do something at 1 hour granular or 10-minute granularity. And that makes it very accessible to use a lot of different algorithms. And nobody had tried this before. So this was something that I tried in collaboration with NetApp, which is one of the biggest networking companies. So this was a very interesting project because nobody had actually tried that kind of building models, more nicer, sophisticated models to capture long-range dependencies where you can actually build models, right? Another project at Amazon more recently is in the space of fashion. So here I was trying to, so I'm a big customer of Amazon. I buy everything on Amazon. So and one problem that I always have is that I find it hard to buy apparel on Amazon. And definitely shoes.
Yes, I know.
So, I love solving this problem at Amazon because I was my own customer. Right?
Thank you. That's why we need women in data science. You guys. This is why we're on Amazon.
And how is it possible that we discuss with women and don't talk about shoes?
And apparel.
I don't know. You're 15th. Tell me, have you talked about women, shoes and apparel for all the other ones?
So the project involved figuring out what size of a shoe or an item of apparel to recommend for a particular customer. So the challenge is that different apparel brands have different sizing conventions, and also the size charts are sometimes not up to date. Sometimes the size charts are just missing, and it becomes extremely hard for the customer to figure out the right size online. So we were looking at ways to leverage the past date transactions of the customer. For example, if I want to buy a Nike shoe, maybe I bought a Reebok shoe, right, of a certain size. Can I leverage that information to kind of understand that, okay, I bought this size of Reebok shoes. What size would it map to this particular model of Nike? So can I actually look at past transactions and the data that I have, and also the return data? So if I actually bought a Reebok shoe and returned it saying it's large, size 7 of Reebok is large for me, then my size might be smaller than the size 7 of Reebok. So using all these pieces of information, we tried to build a model to predict the right size to the customer. So that's another interesting problem I had recently worked on. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. There we go, Kim.
Question: can we now work on blazers with pockets, like women's blazers with pockets? Come on, tell me. I don't know how it is where you guys live right now, but this is a fake pocket. Men get pockets they've got like one here and here and here and here. Like, first trying to find a blazer on Amazon is tough enough as a woman. Like trying to
a very interesting problem would be to figure out if a piece of apparel that's listed has pockets by looking at like probably the product information, the reviews, everything available on it, and trying to figure out if it has pockets. I completely agree with this because I've taken up a policy that I wouldn't wear anything without pockets, and I find it really hard to shop. So,
okay, just to your point on Amazon, I think Amazon is also patented where they can design their warehouse in a fashion that drones can go in and drop and pick the luggage to the truck or to the parcel to the truck. I think that's also been patented. It was patented 2-3 years ago. And I think if that works out, a lot of what you were saying would be resolved in a different fashion.
Yeah. So what I worked on was like really long back. So that was at that time there were hardly any fulfillment centers in like at that scale. So now we have, this is like a very common problem, pick path selection, and there are a lot of warehouses around, like Flipkart has one, or like there's so many companies with warehouses. But this was like 15 years back, so there were no technology. So we really needed to solve it, using an algorithm. But now there are actually, so there are drones, but you need an optimization algorithm even for drones. So how do you efficiently make the drones go in a short period of time and without colliding with each other in, isolated paths, so that they can actually go and efficiently pick items? So Similar,
So,
I got not the same.
To your point, we need to also think about how to stop drones flying away, because that also is a bigger problem. Because you have a drone fly away at any given point in time, then you've got a bigger problem to solve. Anyways, Kim, I forgot something. You mentioned about Jeopardy, right? So, guys, if you don't know, I run another show which is called AI Startup Series, where I have the chief strategy officer of IBM, ex-chief strategy officer of IBM, who used to be the CSO at IBM for Watson at the time when they beat Jeopardy at the time. So his name is Mark Teelink, and he comes on the show every next Tuesday, and we talk about startups. So I was just promoting my another show. So sorry.
Shameless plug.
Shelly.
Shameless plugging of.
It's your show. You do you. You do you.
Sumit, your turn about the use case. Go.
My use case is fairly, I don't know, some 20. I consider myself a fossil now when I talk about use cases, and it's also not a very successful use case. And I agree that as scientists you probably need to look at experiments. So this is a failed experiment that I'll share.
Congratulations.
I guess somebody can learn and make this.
I want to talk about failure soon. Continue.
So this was about 20 years ago. This was with my first company. EdTech was really something which was up and coming, and this was the .com era, as we all know, early 2000. And at that point in time, we were looking at, in India, where there was dial-up access, we were really looking at how many public schools in the capital city of the country, which is New Delhi, can have the propensity to consume, learning online, as in digitally. So that was a ambitious problem, and a problem that we were trying to solve, where we could, create digital classrooms or smart class. And that product was ahead of its time because of the visionary thinking of the founder and the company that I worked for, Educom Solutions. And we were trying to sort of see how we can scale this model in India, where internet was really not there. In a capital city, Delhi, with a sample size of about 10 to 12 schools, we tried to sort of experiment with that. And because we had a relationship with those schools, we were able to, bring that product live. But when we were looking to scale this, and we thought many of the acceptance across public schools in India would really have that access to digital classroom, we realized that the monetization was not working out for the company. Students were not willing to pay, and more importantly, children are obviously key influencers in education. We realized that while we assumed them as the influencer to getting into digital classroom or digital learning, we realized that parents were not willing to pay for something which was taught in the classroom or traditionally instructor led. Cut to 2020, we are in COVID times, and I think the sector that is doing really, really well is EdTech. So I wish I had done this now than 20 years ago. But I think what happened is the model that, of course, the company finally spun off is really smart class in an on-prem model, where they were able to build that infrastructure and also cater to that entire value chain of building the infrastructure and providing the classroom setup, and build a successful product out of it. So that use case was ahead of its time. Probably also the sampling was, I would say there was a sampling error in my view at this point in time, but we learned through that experiment. And now, of course, the company runs that as a very successful product. So that's a use case that I thought I'll share.
Okay.
Right. So if I may, I would like to take a couple of more minutes to actually talk about something that I am working on. So this is something that probably, have not yet created a lot of impact, because it's something that is still something I'm working on. But at machinelearninginterview.com, one of the things we're doing is trying to build a a platform to automate the mock interview process. So a lot of things that you get to, so when you're trying to prepare for an interview, people learn a lot through a mock interview. So especially, even though you prepare a lot of things, you do not know, so you need to have an end-to-end understanding to be of a problem that comes up in an interview in order to sort of take up a scenario and answer questions and problem solve there. So for example, someone might give you a scenario of demand forecasting or product recommendation. How do you actually come up with a solution and then answer questions related to that? So what I'm trying to do is to build a automated interview bot which will ask questions and look at the interviewee's answers and come up with the kind of questions that an interviewer would come up with to sort of help the interviewee prepare better. So that's I think a very interesting use case. Nobody has done it before that I know, but it's something that I'm still working on.
So if no one has done that before, that is the right thing to do in data science. Because
I'm not sure. Yeah.
I'm telling you.
I'm not sure if that's always the right way to go, but yeah, it's very
So
interesting.
I'll tell you a thing which I always make a joke of when I'm on the stage. We talk about innovation. And when you work for a consulting company and you go and try and tell people, oh, I want to do, and the organization wants to do innovation. And you go in and you tell them we can help you and do this as a consulting company. And then they will ask you, where have you done that before?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What are you asking? It is supposed to be innovation. Shouldn't have been done before. That's why.
Yeah.
So in data science, data science and AI, I usually say if it hasn't been done before, that is what you should be doing, because there are lots of other people who will do stuff which has already been done in the past and they will repeat it and they'll make money out of it. But you will make more money out of stuff that has not been done before. And that is true. So if you've done it, if you're doing something that has not been done before, well done. You will make it big.
I think I would put it in a slightly different way. I think you should do stuff that is useful. If it's not done before, that's great, but you should make sure you're doing stuff that's useful. That's also there.
No.
And you can communicate its business value.
Wait, I'll tell you something else. How do you know whether that is useful or not useful if it has not been done before? Who knows?
As an entrepreneur, it's one skill that you should learn. That's called customer development. So you should go and ask customers if they're going to use it before you try to build it.
Okay, so tell me, when there was no television and someone built the television, if he had gone to someone and said, I'm going to build a screen and it's going to talk to you, it's going to be showing black and white pictures, do you think I should do it? They would say, what idiot, what are you talking about? And to that effect, I also talk about the story which is about, about 1500s. So in 1500s, and I think, Kim, you may not relate to this, but I'll tell you, in 1500s, there was a king called Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan had two capitals, one in Agra and one in Delhi. And one idiot like me went to Shah Jahan and said, you know what, I'll give you 2 plastic boxes, one in Agra and one in Delhi, and I'll connect it with a copper wire, and you can pick up from one side and the other side, and you can talk to the other person in the other city. Shah Jahan said, are you gone crazy? He's gone mad. This is not possible. Today, that happens almost every minute, every second, a telephone. Then someone like me went in and said, I will cut the wires too. And you'll have 2 plastic boxes and you can pick up and you can talk. Shah Jahan said, kill him. He's gone mad. He's going to bite people now. So if it wasn't done in the past and you don't know whether it is useful or not, I still suggest try it. You don't know, you may change the world. I've been told so many times I'm not here to change the world. I tell people I'm here to change the world. And to do that, you need to think outside of the box, things that were not done in the past and maybe not thought as useful. Who thought that mobile phone I can't live without this for 15 minutes. Try one day leaving the phone at home and going to work.
I've got a quote for you. Henry Ford, creator of the automobile. Have you guys seen the quote? You know, if I had asked the end user what they would have wanted, they would have said faster horses.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I absolutely agree with your viewpoint. So I think the thing to keep in mind is that there is definitely, so this is called like research, right? So you try to create things that are not there because they might be useful after 10 years, but you know, something great might come out of it. So if you have the resources to build something that that may not be immediately useful or that may be useful, but you're not sure, you can definitely go ahead and do it if you have the resources. Yeah, so in an entrepreneurial path, though, people usually, you know, try to do some validation before going and making something.
It's a constrained environment, and constraints actually bring innovation. So constraint theory always applies. If you have abundance of resources, innovation will not happen, in my view. I think when you're constrained with a problem, I think innovation or
Different
disruption.
kinds of innovation. So, I mean, because there are all these universities that like come up with all these fantastic things without MIT, Stanford, IIScs, all these places. I mean, a lot of things might not have happened, but then there's the other side also. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all of us are right.
I'm just loving this conversation, and we can keep on having this conversation for the rest of the night for Kim, but we've been a bit long stretched. So one question to all three of you: COVID-19, and I ask this on every episode. Where have you seen anywhere where COVID-19 problem you see was solved by data science, or where you see it can help and it's not being solved by using data science? What's your point of view on this? And I think Kim is the right person to think about that, coming from healthcare. So Kim, tell us, do you think that data science can help solve the problem of COVID-19, or help in resolving, or helping in any way or form?
So science and technology is only as good as the people that listen to it, right? So hi, I'm in the United States. But data literacy is a huge thing. So yes, I think there are many things that we can resolve using data science for. In particular, when it comes to one of the causes I care about is the social determinants of health. So that's actually using consumer information to be able to understand, you know, who has access to different things. And I think that there's a long way that we need to go with that information. The problem is social determinants of health is not a sexy subject. Because what happens with it is, and I've learned this through my failure a little bit with the Wi-Fi Warriors thing that I did, is, you know, when I first had people coming through, there weren't people coming out in droves for this internet access, like, oh, I'm going to provide internet access and people are going to come out like crazy. But again, you didn't have the nothing with us without us kind of thing of like, I wasn't able to connect with people that actually needed the internet, you know, so that because I only could use the internet to reach people that didn't have internet, but I was able to use that moving forward. But we need to be able to use these tools to find out where more people may be at risk and then proactively reach out to those individuals through different organizations, through like community-based health organizations, like really, and using advanced interoperability between different medical health record systems. We need to start screening people and asking uncomfortable questions to be able to find those people. So I do think we can use data and analytics to improve COVID-19 specifically, because if we had more information collected about different internet access in the homes, like that weren't just old census data, we could go out and we would be able to know, okay, this is this list of people in this area, like let's send a community health health worker out to these people to see what we can do to help them right now so they're not going to be at risk. Those kinds of things are going to be helpful.
Okay, can I offer you something? If you have an opportunity and if you've got any problem and you know that you've got the data around that, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to do something at some point in time and try and help or drive that particular conversation. Okay, Lavanya, your turn. How do you think COVID-19 would have been solved?
That's a very big question, how to solve COVID-19. but though I have not directly worked on projects related to COVID-19, I have seen many friends work on projects like the following. So definitely one is epidemiologists are actually trying to model the spread of the disease, and there have not been India-specific models, at least in the initial phase. So I have had friends who actually worked on this and tried to take data from how it's spread in other countries and build India-specific models in order to help with decision taking, for the various government war rooms, right? Another example is, so if you look at the chest X-ray of a person, can you actually say if they are likely to have COVID-19 or not? So that's another example. A third is basically you have all these symptom checkers. So there are so many, at least in the initial phases, even now, there are so many symptom checkers where you go and put in your details, what all different things you see, your preconditions, and it'll ask you a bunch of questions. And one of the things is to sort of automatically look at assess COVID-19 risk, right? So that do they need to get a test done immediately? So at this point, it is actually a lot of it is happening manually because you call a doctor and actually they do that. So I think at least in initial days, we were developing like a lot of symptom checkers to do this, which will also give a recommendation based on, others' outcomes. So another interesting application is if you see the image of a bunch of people on a road, can you actually figure out how many are not wearing masks, right? To figure out in a particular area, if there's like a density of people not wearing masks, maybe a police person can go there and, do some kind of intervention. So these are some examples. And there are like lots of examples that where, data science is being used for COVID-19 fighting.
Yep, your lung experiment or lung project was pretty famous. I think China is doing that quite a lot. They're looking at the X-rays and saying whether they are got wet. What is it called? Wet. It's called wet cancer. Or wet. Is it a wet lung or not? Sorry, it's a wet lung or not, and that would mean that they've got COVID or not. So I think they're doing a lot of predictions with that, looking at the X-ray. Soumya, your turn. What do you think, or what use case comes to mind for COVID or not? Or you think something could be done?
So I think a lot of applications are already out, and in our country, I think we've been given the scale and the density of population. I think the contact tracing app, pretty much it's about spreading awareness on what could potentially be a risk group, and if you can be a risk to someone else. So stopping the spread of COVID. So I think our health officials and our government departments are kind of under. So these applications are helping them because they alert people in communities where there is a COVID positive case, and how do you sort of stop the spread of the contamination within the community. So I see in my city, which is Bangalore, where I live, the local officials or the community health officials do turn up, and that is through the application that has been built by the government. The government of India has released Arogya Setu app, which I think is mandatory for everybody to, at least when you're traveling interstate or out of the country, you need to have that application. So I think a lot of technology is being used and traced as well, and people are being traced as the movement in the country is being monitored. I'm not sure drug discovery is a long way to go. So science and technology have to come together to get the discovery trials and clinical trials soon enough. So that's where I see, applications and technology and data science coming into play for helping us get out of this pandemic.
Okay. Final question from me, and then we'll go to audience questions. So guys, if you've got a question, put that in the comment section, and I will definitely take that question very soon. This is your last opportunity to ask questions. So if you've got a question, put that in the comment section. Last question to you guys. Where do you see this going in next 5 years? Where do you see data science to be in next 5 years? And I'll start with Lavanya this time.
Okay, so data science is, so where do I see it going next 5 years? I think more and more companies are going to adopt data science, and there are going to be more. So basically, people have started collecting data a few years back. I think there's been a lot of awareness, and now there'll be more and more data. Number one, 5 years later. So that means people will start trying to solve more and more problems using data science, right? I do think that data science is closely related with. So one thing that I see, right? Initially, data science was more of a very niche topic that people with PhDs used to do initially, maybe like in the very initial stages. And now there are like more and more libraries that have come up, and there are tools to do a lot of things that you can do with data science. And I do see this kind of, democratization in one way, you could call it. So you would see like more and more people being able to use the tools instead of having very specialized knowledge, right? So in terms of the technology itself, right, I see that we would see more and more tools, and because it's easier to use data science, a regular software developer with some training will be able to apply for some kind of use cases. So I do see that it's going to become more and more accessible, and hence, and also because there's going to be more data, it's going to be more widely spread.
Good stuff. What do you think, Soumya?
More people, more structured processes around data, and definitely tools, maturity, and our ability to use those tools, interpret, and hopefully come out with solving some of the largest problems creatively. I would see that over the course of next few years. And given that this is women in data science, I'd like to see women represent in all aspects of data science. And I learned something new actually today, that there are analytics translators and data journalists. So looking to see more of Kims in the world as well, as we have more founders who are going to take data science roles. So that's how I see the next 5 years.
Good stuff. Kim, what do you think?
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. That I also have to give credit to my mentor, Miko Yak. Like, she's the one that created the analytics storyteller. She really started that movement. She's the mother of it. But I agree. I think we do need to see more data storytellers, analytics translators, more jobs in general that don't exist right now. So like adding more specific job titles for niche types of jobs. I also think that people are going to feel more comfortable working with chatbots as coworkers, as opposed to, like that's really the things that people are getting most used to. It's just like they're used to asking Google for assistance, but once you teach somebody that this chatbot is really there to help you through basic processes, like if you're trying to answer a technical question, having a chatbot that'll give you those answers, or if you are onboarding a new employee, having a chatbot that's like can be their buddy as they start out as a new job to answer all of those same questions of a new hire might have. Like those kinds of things I think will be definitely interesting. I do agree with Lavanya about the democratization of data. So being able to access more data sets with greater ease and frequency. I like what Google Datasets is doing to be able to try to make it more easy to find information, and being able to understand which data is trustworthy, which is not, and which is not.
Okay. Finally, the audience Q&A section, where we'll take questions from the audience. And I know, Kim, it's getting late for you, but this is, I promise, the last part of the show. Okay. So let's start with this one. Sandeep Marwa says, super. Hi, Sandeep. How are you? On LinkedIn, Sandeep Marwa, I must say, is a name in the film industry in India. He's a big name, runs Marwa Studios, I think. And I remember that because when I was living in Delhi, I used to walk past his the big offices around IIT. So, good to have you and watch the show, Sandeep. Thank you. Kapil R. Soni says hi. Hi, Kapil. How are you? Poonam Sood, a regular on our show, says, hello everyone. Hi Poonam, how are you? Okay, her first comment, Poonam says, women are good in solving problems and analysis of anything, which is true. So, good comment, Poonam. A message from Katta Nani. Hi Katta, how are you? Okay, here we go. Poonam Sood asking a question. How to start a career in data science? Any courses? Who wants to take that?
Right, so I can try to take that. I think this is something we already talked about a little bit earlier. So if you want to start a career in data science, it depends on whether you are already employed and you are trying to do this on the side, or if you're full-time trying to learn something. So there are a variety of options available. So you can just start with Coursera, which has like free courses for audit on a variety of topics, right? Then if you are already working and you don't have a lot of time, but you have like paid courses where you can do it in a very structured way, where you have access to industry mentors and they have a curriculum, and you can do it sort of part-time and get like, do it over like say 9 months or 1 year. So there are a whole bunch of programs like Springboard, a whole bunch of programs are there. You can actually look up online. I think parallelly, I think what you should be doing though is trying to just do a lot of projects. So if you have some programming background, I think you should just go to some site like Kaggle or wherever you can find like data sets to work with, and just try and experiment with small things. Where if you go to Kaggle, for example, you will already have code that other people have written to help you get started. So you can actually just start doing like, small projects and get started.
Good stuff. Kim, do you have anything to add here?
I'm kind of obsessed right now with LinkedIn Learning, just in terms of I really, really like the LinkedIn Learning platform. I'm fortunate that where I work actually has a subscription to it. So I think they have a free trial or whatnot. But the thing that I like about the LinkedIn Learning platform is I like that their content is always fresh. When I'm looking for new things, and it seems to be really well updated recently. And the other wonderful thing about doing LinkedIn Learning content is once you finish, you actually can have that be attached to your profile. So that way, when future employers do start looking for you, like it already has the badge that you have gone through the training, but also it kind of shows you that history, that you are a continuous learner, that you're coming back and you're learning more, not because somebody required it of you, but because you went and found it yourself, which I think is definitely something that I would look for in a candidate.
Hey, Sowmaya, you want to add something or should I move on?
Yeah, I think at Women in Big Data, especially in India, we are looking to bridge this gap of industry and academia, and we are looking to come out with courses as well by partnering with some of the leading universities in India. So, and we actually have a program called Shakti, which is really about restarting your career in data science, either whether you are doing for education or you're back to work. So happy to connect, with Poonam and everyone else who's listening in and talk through some of these courses, which obviously we will partner with several of these companies that have already been spoken about, and also a few universities where these courses are being specifically targeted for women who are looking to restart their career in data science.
Okay, next comment from Prapul Palli. He says, YouTube Live. Hi Prapul, how are you? He's a regular on the show as well. Poonam says live, and Poonam says, I learned all data visualization tools, Power BI, Tableau, etc. by self-learning, but no real-time experience. Okay, that's a comment. And the next line to that is, how to justify that in job application.
Yeah, I think you should try to get some experience, like try to do like some kind of free internship kind of a thing with, there's someone who would really require your help, who might not be willing to pay, but actually if you do it for free, you can actually always get some real experience and put it on your resume. That usually helps a lot.
Okay. And I would say, the best way is, because some of these softwares are available to you, you can create your own visualizations, and take it when you're going for an interview? Because remember one thing, nothing succeeds like the fact that you've done something and you're able to show. So put it on your iPad or a laptop, take it and just open it up and say, this is what I've done. There we go. And I don't think anyone can beat that. That's bigger than an experience on a CV. So if you've got that knowledge, just build something. There we go.
This is my personal portfolio. I'm not going to open it up and show, but was like my key for any interviews and things, because I was able to show examples of different things that I've done both in work and outside of work. My next goal is I'm going to have to figure out how to digitize this thing because now most everything is definitely done online, but that I kept track of all my projects. So if I was like doing things in school or whatnot, you could put those things in there. Any awards that you'd won, you could put those kinds of things, those certificates and stuff in there. It gave something people could flip through to actually see me, as a full person and also letters of thank you. So if somebody wrote a really nice letter to me saying, I really appreciated your help with this, or if I was just doing customer service work at a time, like I've got a couple of thank yous in there, but people know that I'm a decent human being because I have a record of it and I keep it in my notebook. And then I'll flip out those pages depending upon what I'm going to a specific interview for. You don't need to bring everything. You can take out some of those transparency pages and just bring the ones that are relevant to what you're doing.
Okay, perfect. Next question is from Nagendra Naga. Hi, Nagendra. He says, if data science certificate must consider in job. So I think what I'm reading from here is he wants to know if there is any certification that is always considered as a good certification to have, kind of thing, which is considered for jobs. Anything you think, Lavanya, you may know?
Right. In my opinion, so this might differ a little bit from who is looking at your resume, but in my opinion, you really need to have the skills, and your resume needs to project that you actually have the skills. So if you've done projects related to what you have, whatever role you're looking at, and if you are able to describe those projects, and if you have done significant number of projects, that usually helps more than certifications. But it really depends on what role you're trying to apply to also. And that said, if you did like a advanced program, like some kind of a master's or something from like a good university, that has a different credibility. But certifications themselves, for a lot of roles, it's the projects you do that are more important, I think.
Okay. So he's saying, consider certificate for freshers. Can you tell me, please? So he's saying any certification that would be for freshers?
Certification is good to see, but if you have certification, that's usually not enough. And if you actually have 5 projects that you did on your own on the resume, that carries more value.
And so, Nagendra, I think you are coming from my YouTube channel. There is a 6-minute video which I have created for data science for beginners. I think you should watch that. That explains how you could actually utilize availability of data and everything and do certain projects. I think that would be helpful as well. Just trying to do some advertisement. Okay. Next one from Poonam saying, thanks, Lavanya. I'm doing a course from Coursera on data science.
Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you, Poonam. Prapul saying, hello, Shailendra. Hi, hello, Prapul. Poonam saying, thanks, would like to connect with you. So Poonam will send you a LinkedIn request, girls.
And Poonam, you're happy to connect with me as well if you have specific questions on what courses to take and so on.
Okay. Prapul Pali asking, can you please explain me about selection bias?
Right. So there are many kinds of biases that creep into the kind of, so when you're building a model, there could be like a whole different set of biases that can creep in. So I'm not sure if you're referring to this, but this is what I think would explain it. So you might actually be ending up using only a part of your data. So you might have collected data from like a subset of people that you're working with, but it may not be representative of the entire data that you're going to see when you use the model. And this results in bias in the models that you created, right? So that's one form of it.
Okay. Finally, Nagendra is asking what modules to learn in data science.
It really depends on what kind of roles you're looking for. Could you be more specific, like what kind of roles you are planning to apply to?
Yep, if you can, and if you can do that in next 2 minutes, then we will take that. Otherwise, we are all done. Poonam saying thank you all, really helpful. And Poonam also said that I've created a public profile in Tableau and visualization on domestic violence, which is brilliant, Poonam. Thank you very much. And Poonam has shared the link in the LinkedIn stream. So you guys, anyone can go and have a look at that link and hopefully...
Actually, can I mention something from here? So one of the things that's definitely important is I'm really excited to hear that and see that you're working on that, especially because due to COVID-19, we're seeing a lot of need for mental health and also a lot of things that are happening in the home because people are in the home right now. So domestic violence is on the rise because people are kind of trapped. So this is definitely a great subject to please continue to follow up on that. I urge you to look at that in addition to looking at mental health, substance abuse, those kinds of things. Those kind of topics are definitely going to be hot button topics moving forward. So keep going.
Good stuff. And would like to, what I'm saying, would like to connect with Soumya for courses.
Absolutely.
Good
Yeah.
stuff. And Nagendra said, data scientist, and that's a very generic, and you want modules for that. There are no certain modules for being a data scientist, Nagendra. And if you can send me a message, I will try and see what I can do and help you with that. We can have a conversation on the phone. Okay, guys. Poonam said, you're right, Kim. Good stuff. Perfect. Thank you, guys. Those were the questions. Thank you to the audience for asking those questions. It was a pleasure to hear all the questions from you. So, girls, if you know anyone who should be on this show, Women in Data Science, please mention their name in the comment section. To the audience, if you want someone from the show who wants to be, who you think is the leading lady in data science and should be on this show, mention their name in the comment section. I'll reach out to them and try to get them here. But before I go, one line phrase from all three of you, one by one. And I will go this time in alphabetical order. One phrase for data science and women in data science. Kim first.
Don't get mad, get data.
Don't get mad, get data. Good one. Lavanya.
Right. I really like the, I don't know who said this, but in some time, I think we will not be talking about women leaders, but just leaders.
Soumya.
Data and women, women in data and women are going to be congruous in some ways. I don't know. I can't think of anything.
Good stuff. Guys, thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you all on the show. And thank you very much, Kim, for coming to the show. I think it should be 2 a.m. for you. And keeping up that late in night. Thank you very much. Thanks for the commitment. Thank you, Lavanya. Thank you, Soumya. It was a pleasure having you all on the show. Please, if you know any other women in data science, please let me know. I'll try and get them here. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. It was lovely talking to everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. So, guys, those were the 3 women in data science for tonight. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was really fun today. If you know anyone, any other women in data science you want to be on the show, put their name in the comment section. Also, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, please press the follow button so that you can get alerted when a new show is on. If you're watching this on YouTube, please press the subscribe button and press the alert and the bell icon so that you can be alerted when a live show is on. And if you're watching it on Twitter, please press the follow button so that you get all the alerts. If you're watching this on Facebook, please share this episode with the data science groups so more and more people can learn from these women in data science. And thank you very much. And I'll see you next week in the episode, the AI Startup Series episode, where we have a new guest next week again. So thank you and bye now. See you later.